The moment Claire pushed the $500 dinner bill across the white tablecloth and told me I was embarrassing her because my card had been declined. I already owned the restaurant, she just did not know it yet. The waiter stood beside us holding the black leather check folder, like it was evidence in a murder trial. Around us, crystal glasses caught the chandelier light. A pianist played something soft near the bar. Plates of dry-aged wagyu, bluefin tuna, and truffle risotto disappeared from tables occupied by people Claire had spent the entire night trying to impress. She stared at me like I had dragged mud across the marble floor. "Are you serious, Ethan?" I looked at the little silver card reader in the waiter's hand. "Looks like it." Claire gave a short laugh and leaned back in her chair. Her dress cost more than the old Honda Civic I had been driving for the last 6 months. I knew because I had paid for the dress. She did not know that either. "I cannot believe this," she whispered. "You brought me to a 5-star restaurant with no money." The waiter shifted awkwardly. "I could have fixed it with one phone call." I did not. That was the point. For 8 months, I had been pretending my company had collapsed. I sold the penthouse. I stopped wearing the watches. I traded the Aston Martin for that scratch Honda. I moved into a small apartment above a laundromat and told everyone the banks had frozen my accounts. It was a test. A stupid test, maybe. But after 12 years of building North Star Capital from a borrowed desk and a second-hand laptop into one of the largest private investment groups in the country, I had learned one ugly truth. Money attracted affection faster than blood attracted sharks. I wanted to know who would still sit beside me, and the water turned red. Claire had lasted 23 days. My best friend Ryan lasted 12. And tonight, both of them were giving me my final answer. Claire looked past me toward the bar. Ryan was standing there in a charcoal suit, smiling into a glass of bourbon. He had told me he was in Chicago. Interesting. Claire saw him and immediately changed. Her shoulders straightened. Her voice softened. Her fingers touched her hair. "Ryan." He walked toward us as if he had just noticed us by accident. "Ethan. Man, what are you doing here?" I almost laughed. The reservation had been booked under Claire's name. Ryan knew exactly where we were. Claire pointed at the bill. "He cannot even pay for dinner." Ryan looked at me with fake sympathy. "Things still rough. Terrible." He nodded slowly. "You know, brother, there is no shame in accepting help." He pulled out a polished metal card and handed it to the waiter. "Put their dinner on my." Claire smiled at him. Not at me, at him. That was when I understood I had not been testing one betrayal. I had been testing two. Ryan pulled over an empty chair. Claire did not object. He ordered another bottle of wine. $800. Claire laughed at his jokes. She touched his wrist twice. Then she told him about a rooftop club opening nearby. I sat there quietly. Ryan finally turned to me. "You coming?" Claire answered before I could. "No." I raised an eyebrow. She crossed her arms. "I am done babysitting you. Ethan, I did not sign up for this." "For what?" "For being poor." The words came out so cleanly that even Ryan looked surprised. She realized what she had said, but instead of taking it back, she doubled down. "You used to be somebody. Now every night is excuses. Cheap groceries, cheap car, cheap apartment. I am 29 years old. I am not wasting my life waiting for a man who cannot even pay $500 for dinner." A couple at the next table heard her. The woman glanced over. Claire lowered her voice. "You are not ambitious anymore." I looked at her for a long moment, then I picked up my water. Anything else that irritated her more than shouting would have. She wanted tears. She wanted begging. She wanted me to promise I would become rich again so she could generously stay. Instead, I took a slow drink. Claire reached into her purse, removed the key to my apartment, and placed it beside my plate. "I think we should take a break." Ryan stared into his bourbon. His mouth twitched. I nodded. "Okay." Claire blinked. "Okay. Yeah, that is all you have to say." "What did you want me to say?" She opened her mouth and stopped. I pulled a folded sheet of paper from my jacket. I had carried it for 3 weeks. A simple termination of domestic partnership agreement drafted by one of my attorneys. No shared property. No future claims. No financial obligations. I had already signed it. I placed a pen beside it. Claire stared at the document. "What is this?" "You said you are done." Her face tightened. So you just happened to bring paperwork? I hoped I would not need it. Ryan leaned forward. This is a little dramatic. I looked at him. I did not ask you. His smile disappeared. Claire scanned the document. When she saw the clause releasing all claims to future assets, she laughed. Future assets? She looked at Ryan, then back at me. Ethan, you have nothing. Then signing should be easy. That landed. Her jaw tightened. She grabbed the pen and signed her name so hard the tip nearly tore the paper. There. I folded it once and returned it to my jacket. Thank you. She stood. Ryan stood with her. For 1 second, I watched them side by side. Something about their familiarity became obvious now that I was looking for it. Too comfortable, too synchronized. Claire picked up her purse. Good luck, Ethan, with what? Your new life. I smiled. You too. She hated that smile. I could tell. She wanted to leave believing she had escaped a sinking ship. Instead, she left wondering why the drowning man looked relieved. Ryan gave me a pitying clap on the shoulder. If you need anything, call me. I will. He should have listened more carefully. They walked out together. I stayed at the table. The waiter approached cautiously. Sir, your friend paid the bill. I know. Would you like anything else? Coffee, of course. He disappeared. My phone vibrated. One message. Acquisition complete. I read it twice. Then I called my assistant. Maya answered immediately. Done? Everything? Debt, purchased, building, transferred, liquor license, included, management contracts, assign. I looked around the dining room. Good. Maya paused. Do you want me to tell them? Not yet. A smile pulled at my mouth. Let everyone finish dessert. By the time my coffee arrived, the restaurant belonged entirely to North Star Capital. The building, the business, the wine inventory, the kitchen equipment, the intellectual property. Even the long-term lease on the private rooftop lounge Claire was probably heading toward. I had not bought it because of her. The acquisition had been in motion for months. The restaurant's parent company had overexpanded and buried itself under commercial debt. I had bought the debt first, then the equity, then the property under it. Claire had simply chosen the most ironic night possible to betray me. When I walked outside, a black sedan was waiting. My Honda Civic remained parked 3 blocks away. The driver opened the rear door. I got in. Maya sat across from me with a tablet. Ryan made 3 calls while you were inside. To whom? His broker, his lawyer, and Claire. I looked up. Maya turned the tablet. Ryan's company, Halden Technologies, had been living on borrowed money for almost a year. He presented himself as a young software billionaire. In reality, the company had negative cash flow, shrinking margins, and debt secured against nearly everything he owned. How much of his debt can we acquire before the market opens? Maya smiled. Most of it. Do it. Quietly. Completely. She tapped something on the screen. Anything else? Buy the equity too. All of it. Every share anyone is willing to sell. Maya studied me. That could trigger a control position. That is the idea. By sunrise, 3 shell companies controlled enough of Ryan's debt to choke him. By noon, 2 institutional investors accepted our private offers. By the closing bell, Ryan no longer controlled the company he called his empire. He just did not know that yet. For the next 3 days, I disappeared. Claire texted me 19 times. The first messages were angry. You could at least answer. Then mocking. Hope the cheap apartment is comfortable. Then curious. Did you really sign those papers before dinner? Then strange. Ryan says you are acting weird. Finally, can we talk? I did not reply. That drove her crazy. Ryan called too. Once, I declined it. Friday night was the annual Meridian Foundation Gala, the largest charity event in the city. 400 guests, bankers, athletes, politicians, founders, old families who measured wealth in generations. The event was being held at the same restaurant where Claire had dumped me. My restaurant, Ryan was one of the featured sponsors. Claire was attending as his guest. And the mystery chairman of North Star Capital was scheduled to make a public appearance for the first time. Almost nobody had seen my face. I had structured it that way deliberately. For years, I used executives, lawyers, and representatives. People knew the name Ethan Cole. They did not connect it to North Star. That was about to change. I arrived through the private entrance wearing a black Tom Ford tuxedo, a Vacheron Constantine on my wrist, and the same calm expression I had worn while Claire signed herself out of my life. Maya met me upstairs. Ryan has been telling everyone he is about to close a transformative partnership. With whom? North Star. I laughed. Did we ever discuss one? No. Perfect. Downstairs, Claire stood beneath a chandelier holding champagne. Ryan had one hand on her waist. I watched them through the mezzanine glass. She looked happy. Ryan looked loud. He always got louder around richer people. Then the master of ceremonies stepped onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin tonight's auction, we have a special guest. The room softened into silence. For years, North Star Capital has been one of the most influential private investment groups in the country, yet its founder has remained famously private. Claire stopped moving. Ryan straightened. The master of ceremonies smiled. Tonight, for the first time, he has agreed to join us publicly. I stepped onto the staircase. Ryan saw me first. His face changed. Not much, just enough. Claire followed his eyes. The champagne flute froze halfway to her lips. I descended slowly. Nobody laughed at my clothes now. Nobody looked away. Cameras turned. Conversations died. Claire's mouth opened. Ryan whispered something I could not hear. I reached the stage. The master of ceremonies shook my hand. Mr. Ethan Cole. Silence, then applause hit the room like thunder. Claire dropped her glass. It shattered on the marble. Every head turned. I looked at her. She looked down at the broken crystal, then back at me. She had finally done the math, the penthouse, the watches, the travel, the private dinners, the impossible access. The money she thought I had lost had never been the whole fortune. It had been pocket change. I took the microphone. I will keep this short. The crowd laughed politely. North Star has always believed that money reveals character faster than it changes character. Claire's face went white. Ryan stopped smiling. Tonight, we completed several transactions I would like to announce. A screen behind me lit up. The first slide showed the restaurant group. North Star now owns this property and the hospitality company operating it. A murmur passed through the room. Claire's eyes widened. I continued. The second transaction involves Halden Technologies. Ryan went rigid. The screen changed. His company logo appeared. We acquired a controlling position through equity purchases and secured debt. The color left his face. He pushed through the crowd. What? His voice carried. I looked directly at him. Sit down, Ryan. He did not. This is impossible. Ma Yao stepped beside the stage and handed him a folder. He tore it open. I watched his eyes move. Loan assignments, voting agreements, board consents, debt covenants, default notices. Each page made him smaller. No. He looked at me. You cannot do this. I already did. His hands started shaking. My board would never approve this. Your board approved it this afternoon. He stared at me. Then the screen changed again. A list of resignations appeared. Chief Financial Officer, General Counsel, to directors, head of sales. Ryan looked like someone had removed the floor beneath him. I continued. North Star will exercise its rights as secured creditor effective immediately. Executive accounts are frozen. Company aircraft access suspended. Corporate cards are terminated. Ryan reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. He started calling. Nobody answered. Claire stepped toward me. Ethan. I ignored her. Ryan looked down at his screen. Please. That word sounded strange coming from him. I smiled. Anything, brother. His face collapsed. He remembered the restaurant, the pitying clap on my shoulder, the offer to help. I did too. Claire reached the stage. Security moved toward her. I raised one hand. They stopped. She stared up at me. Her eyes were wet. Ethan, I did not know. I know, if you had told me. That was the test. She froze. Behind her, hundreds of phones were recording. Her hand touched my sleeve. I stepped back. We were together for years. Yes, I loved you, until dinner cost $500. Her lips trembled. It was not about the money. I looked at the room, then back at her. Claire, you literally said it was about the money. A few people laughed. She flinched. Please, we can fix this. No, I made a mistake. No, you made a decision. She started crying now, real tears. The kind she had refused to give me when she thought I was broke. I was scared. So was I. She reached for my hand. Security stepped closer. Claire suddenly dropped to her knees. The entire ballroom went silent. My former girlfriend knelt on the marble where her champagne glass had shattered minutes earlier. Ethan, please. I looked down at her. Ryan stood behind her holding the documents that had just ended his career. 400 people watched. Claire whispered, I will do anything. I leaned down just enough that only she could hear me. You already gave me the only answer I needed. Then I straightened. Security removed her hand from my trouser leg. Ryan called my name. I did not turn. The master of ceremonies handed me back the microphone. I looked over the room. The pianist had stopped playing. The waiters had stopped moving. Everyone was waiting. I raised my glass. Enjoy dinner. The room erupted. I walked through the private corridor toward the elevator. Maya followed me. The board wants to know what you want done with Ryan. I pressed the elevator button. Liquidate anything that cannot perform without him, and anything that can. Keep it. The doors opened. Maya smiled. What about Claire? I stepped inside. Nothing. The doors began to close. That was the part neither of them understood. I did not need revenge. I had already won the moment they showed me who they were. But as the elevator sealed shut, my phone vibrated again. Maya looked at the screen. Her smile disappeared. Ryan moved money before the freeze. How much? Enough to become a problem. I looked at my reflection in the polished elevator doors. Then I smiled. Good. I was not finished with him yet.